LStar Communities started out with fairly humble roots and has grown and grown and become a national enterprise. And lately, some of the more exciting ideas that we have seem very familiar to us. And so Steve and I, who are both from Massachusetts, are convinced that what we're basically doing is recreating things that we saw in our childhood that we grew up with.
I grew up in New England. I grew up in Springfield. If I think back and look at the inspiration for those great communities, it's almost all from where I grew up.
The Tidal Walk deal that we have in Wilmington, North Carolina, it's an oceanfront deal. We've got a beach, and like the beaches I grew up on in Sandwich back in the Cape, one of the things I would always do when friends would come visit me is I would take them to the town boardwalk and I'd take them out to the beaches at Town Neck Beach. We look back at what we're doing at Tidal Walk, we're recreating that. And I don't think we even fully realized it when we were doing it. You know, we're making a boardwalk that will connect the neighborhoods to the beach that we have there for the neighborhood.
Walnut Creek over in outside of Charlotte. It was a community that was in terrible, terrible condition when we acquired it, where it had been abandoned by the prior developer. We didn't just go in there and fix it, we made it a lot better.
We created this fantastic county park. It's called Walnut Creek Park. It's got softball fields and baseball fields and tennis and all sorts of things. Community building is an EMS station. But really what it is, it's like the ball fields that we grew up on back in Massachusetts as kids.
That day that park opened, to see little kids out there playing baseball, to see families and grandparents watching them, cheering them on, it was really just one of those special times. I'm sure I'll remember forever as saying, yeah, that's why we do what we do. We acquired the Grand Dunes project about 1.5 years ago. Just one of the truly spectacular properties on the East Coast. The first thing we did was spend about 6 months planning to create a new vision.
The first initiative that we announced was a public trail system, and it would go 3 miles along the Intracoastal Waterway and be one of the first places in Myrtle Beach where the public can actually walk along the Intracoastal. We found ourselves talking about things like, well, we have to make sure we have a fishing pier and we have to have bump outs. I am convinced that this passion for getting that right comes directly from my childhood as a kid, going to the Cape Cod in the summers with my family and spending 1 million hours out on that Cape Cod Canal bike path with my dad. When people ask us what motivates us when we create these communities, we talk in terms of like 100 years. Which surprises a lot of people, because investors tend to think in terms of a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but we're thinking about the legacy of the work that we do, which is I think what draws us to this industry. And I think the reason we're thinking in terms of a century or centuries is because of where we're from. And so the ideal that we're trying to live up to is that standard, where 100 years from now, maybe 200 years from now, our work, the neighborhoods that we've created, these beautiful parks and open space areas that we've set aside will transcend the near term and be viewed long term as an integral part of those towns and communities in which our neighborhoods reside.